So in completing the getting started problem, I'm just going to go through all the problems on the screen, whether they are non-calculator or calculator problems. Start at the top, saying I'm basically taking -5 times itself 3 times. So that's going to give me a positive 20, gives you a 125, which is 5 times 5 times 5. And because they're all negatives, you have 3 of them, then we know the negative product. So final answer is -125. In the second problem, one of the things I've talked about is if you think about what 5 cubed is, then 5 to -3 is just its reciprocal. So 5 cubed is 125. So 5 to -3 is 1 over 125. That negative exponent, again, we talked about, is telling me that those 5s belong in the denominator of the fraction. So this problem, if I was going to write this as an expression with a positive exponent, the 5 to -3 would become 1 over 5 cubed. In the first calculator problem, the word completely is always a hint that there must be something that we can factor out of both, in this case, both terms. It won't be an x because the first term has x's, but the second term doesn't. So our focus will be on the numbers. So I'm looking for a common factor that both the 8 and the 18 share. And that would be 2. And then what's left is 4 and 9. And so when I rewrite this, the expression 8x squared minus 18, I'm going to remove the factor of 2. And what's going to be left is 4x squared, because again, I'm replacing the 8 with the 4, minus 9, and replacing the 18 with the 9 since I'm removing the factor of 2. In this problem, we've done some problems like this before. In this problem, we have no middle term. So what that means is that that middle term is a 0, or 0x in this case. So I'm looking for a way of factoring this so that when I add the terms together, I'm going to get a middle term that is 0. So for the diamond, since we don't have a 1x squared, multiply the outsides, I get -36x squared. And the bottom is going to be the 0x. Again, that's why I put the 0x in there, just to emphasize that there is a term there. We generally don't write the 0x, but with this diamond problem, we need the middle term because we're trying to add up our 2 choices to get a 0. So for our x terms, to get a 36 at the top being negative and a 0 at the bottom, both of you chose 6x and -6x. So we have 4x squared minus 9, and then bringing over the 6x and the -6x from our diamond. Anytime you have a middle term missing, in this case the 0x term is missing, look at the numbers that you're beginning with, and that would be the 4 and the 9. And to get a 0, that means that when I'm multiplying the factors from the 4 and 9, I have to get opposites. So if I get an 18x and -18x, I add those together, I get a 0. If I get 12x and -12x, again, I get that 0. So I'm trying to make sure that when I am choosing my factors for 4 and 9, that I'm getting a 0 when I'm adding those answers together. The 4 and the 9 both happen to be perfect squares. Being by that is that 2 times 2 is 4, and for the 9 is 3 times 3. And so if I would use the factors that are the same, the 2 2's and the 2 3's, when I combine those, that's going to help me get that 0 in the middle. So I'm going to make the 4x become 2x and 2x, and then times 2x times -3, that's going to be that -6x. and 2x times positive 3, that's going to give me that positive 6x. And the 3 and the negative 3, that's going to give me that 9 that's negative. So by choosing numbers that are the factors that are the same, that's the 2 2s and 2 3s, that helps increase our chances of getting that 0 in the middle. That would be that 6x minus 6x. So our final answer is 2 times 2x plus 3 and 2x minus 3. In the second problem, the graph of f of x is shown. The task is to graph the f of negative x in the same grid. So the negative is inside the function. So that means this is a reflection over the y-axis. So 0, 0 is still going to stay at 0, 0. 1, 1 will become negative 1, 1. And 4, 2 will become negative 4, 2. So our graph will look like this. All right, c of x is a linear function that describes the cost of a snow cone based on the number of flavors. The cost of a snow cone is 2 flavors is $6, and the cost for a snow cone with 5 flavors is $6.75. Write an equation that describes the linear function. And then the second one is multiple choice, given justification of your selection. And you're told that x is 9. So I'm going to do the one on the right first. So if k plus 2 minus 9, substitution is equal to 0. So square root of k plus 2 is going to equal 9. So a couple ways you could do this. You could actually just plug in the numbers, because you have 4 choices, and see which one works. Think about what number to kind of take the square root of to get 9. And then figure out what k is. Or we can do this more algebraically, which means I can square both sides to get rid of the square root. So k plus 2 would be 81. Again, square root of 81 is 9. And then subtract with 2, and I get 79 for k. So for the snow cone problem, we can set up a table and try to figure out, for example, what is the slope based on the increase as I add a number of flavors, how does that change the cost? Or I could actually calculate the slope looking at the difference in the y values, which are the costs, and the difference of the x values, which are the flavors, and come up with a slope this way. So I'm going to go ahead and do the slope using y costs over flavors. So 6.75 take away 6, and 5 take away 2. So I'm using this as my first numbers. So I get 0.75 divided by 3. So that means each flavor is going to cost 25 cents. So again, if I change and put in increase 25 cents here, $6, $6.25, $6.50, $6.75. Again, the increase is clearly 25 cents. So that's our slope. So it's asking for a linear function here for c of x. So because it's asking for a linear function, that means I need to actually find the b value. So the slope's going to be 0.25x, and I'm looking again. I need to find that b value. So I got a couple of choices here. You could choose. You could choose one of the answers, such as 6, and actually try to figure out what the b value is going to be. That's one way of doing this problem. You can take the table and you can back it up to 0 in the other direction, and to figure out what the b value is. So a couple of different choices. So if I would back up the table, I'm basically increasing by 25 cents this way, So if I go the other direction, I am going to be subtracting 25 cents. So it's going to be $5.75 at 1 flavor, and it's $5.50 at 0. So that means my B value is 5.50. So that means if I buy no flavors at all, just plain ice, it's going to cost me $5.50, and then 25 cents for each flavor after that. If you wanted to try to figure out the B value, you could have taken the function and replaced c of x with 6, since that's the answer, and replace the 0.25 with a 2, since that's how many flavors I get for the $6 cost, and then try to figure out what the answer is from here. So 25 cents times 2 is 50 cents. Subtract the 50 cents from both sides, and the B value would be $5.50. So 2 different ways of approaching it. So sometimes if you're really close to 0, such as we started with the table 2, sometimes just backing the table up to 0 might be just as fast as doing the substitution method. All right, so for the last problems, again, those are the non-calculator problems. I'm trying to figure out the value of the question mark to get 1,000, so that would be 3. Because 10 times 10 times 10 is 1,000. And we've talked about this one answer quite a bit over the last couple of weeks. And so anything raised to the 0 power is 1, except for 0 to 0, you'll get an error. Basically, if I have a bunch of 10s, and let's say I have 3 of them in the numerator, and I have 3 of them in the denominator, so it becomes 10 cubed over 10 cubed. If I subtract the exponents using one of our exponent rules, what I get is 10 to the 0 power. If I simplify the fraction, 10 cubed over 10 cubed, I'm going to get 3 ones, and 1 times 1 times 1 is a 1. So 10 to the 0 power is going to give me an answer of 1. Because when I simplify that fraction, all the 10s are marked out because I'm creating values of 1. We'll continue with our practicing in our next class. Also, we'll be beginning some practicing towards your final exam as well. So if you have any questions, you can post those on Monday.